Welcome to Automation Hunter, the podcast for entrepreneurs and businesses ready to scale smarter. In this series, Apps, Hacks, and Bounties, your host, Will Christensen, dives into game-changing tools and strategies alongside special guests, sharing insights to boost productivity and solve real business challenges. Ready to innovate? Let's dive in.
All right, welcome everybody to this episode of Automation Hunter. We are talking apps, hacks, and bounties with my good friend, Yoni Mazor. Yoni, it is a pleasure to jump on with you again. You've obviously been on other podcasts that I've done, and you're big in the Amazon space. Getita is an amazing tool for reimbursements for Amazon sellers. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. Always glad to be on.
So my first question is apps. So what we're looking for with apps, just for as a reminder for the listeners, we're looking for anything you've used recently that you're like, wow, this app just changed the game for me a little bit. Or you're welcome to feature a feature inside an app that you were like, oh, a lot of people didn't know or don't know about this feature. So any apps you can think of that have been pretty solid for you.
Yeah, so one very useful app for me is Popl, P-O-P-L. It's free. You can just look it up on the App Store. I use it on my iPhone. I travel a lot for events, conferences, networking events, masterminds, workshops, stuff like that, and I connect with a lot of people. And instead of holding a business card or taking cards and stuff like that, I have Popl. So Popl, basically, I can just have it. I have like this QR code saved on my Apple Wallet. So I just double click my lock screen and it pops it up, and then people can scan it. And as they scan it, they can digitally just put their information, so I can save it. And then later on, with like 3 clicks, they're able to really save all my contact info, because it basically creates this digital virtual business card or full contact information that I have. So once they click it, they have my phone number, my email, my YouTube channel, a social media handle, stuff like that. So it makes the process really seamless to exchange information and contact. And I can always go into my inbox, because Popl is also connected to my email. I can always put Popl and kind of see the whole string of contacts that I have harvested over time, and then I can obviously follow up. Or if I want my teams to follow up, I send it to my teams. There's also more features of automation if you have a CRM, client relations management platform, where you can create other automations after an event. If you're more on the sales and marketing side, where you already know that these I'll just send to this kind of sequence, there's ability to do that. We haven't applied those because I tend to get more personal. I actually want to create that personal touch, but it really helps me to consolidate all my information,
all your
to one
contacts,
place,
all your networking, all in one place.
One digital space, instead of having business cards all over my office and never really being able to make sense of it all. So it really helped me a lot.
It. Popl.
Yeah.
Popl.co.
Yeah,
I like it.
And then one last thing is that when I go, I also kind of I do lectures and workshops. So when I have my last slide usually has that QR code, so they can scan it. And so I have massive crowd just taking my information, taking the intake, and then when they get access to my my information, they go into our YouTube channel and handle. So it drives traffic into our world. So it definitely helped me a lot to gain momentum.
I love it. I'm gonna share a hack. So good. This is a good segue into the hack side of things. One hack that I do when I give presentations is I actually have a team member who's able to create really short, simple lead gen forms on my website. And I create a short URL, something like equityhammer.com/prosper. And I'll actually put that on my last slide of my presentation, and I'll put the QR code. And when they get there, I'm offering the slides. And one of the things that I do is I like to capture the email address and then redirect them to a second form that asks them some basic questions about what their biggest pain points are. And then from there, I know who to prioritize, right? Because if they're feeling that pain right now, it's time to talk. So that's something I've done at the end of my presentations, which has been really cool. For me, it's less about driving traffic and more about identifying individuals that are ready to buy from the conversation. So.
Nice. That's a nice flow.
Cool. All right. Hacks. Tell me about a hack you've used that you feel like, and this could be another app if you want. It could also be, just a process that you've started to use, like the one that I mentioned. What hack would you like to share?
So I think anybody listening to this might find this useful. Today it's called retention.com. Before that, it used to be called getemails.com. So getemails.com rebranded, and now they're called retention.com. So basically it's a plugin or feature for the website. You can set up, it doesn't matter which website platform you use to host, but you can just kind of add it as a feature. And basically what it does is any traffic that comes into your website, it's able to harvest from open sources the contact information, or at least the emails of the visitor. 30-40% of the traffic, you'll be able to just harvest it. So you know what's coming into your website. So we definitely invest in our website. We have
It's funny because I've wondered before. Have you ever gotten an email from somebody and you're like, how did they get my email?
Exactly.
That's, I mean,
That was the next point. If you want to be on the creepy side like that, some companies are comfortable with that. They so how I found out about this. I hired a digital agency earlier, years ago,
uh-huh.
and I just visited their website. And as soon as I visited, boom, they just sent me, thank you for visiting. This, and like that was impressive. This way, they were able to show me their skills in digital marketing. So it wasn't that creepy. But if I go to, I don't know, a doctor's office, all of a sudden they haunt me. Maybe it's a little, I don't know, something like that.
Maybe it's a little creepy that they're
Yeah, no, because they did it immediately.
Right,
as soon as I came in, like 30 seconds after, I got an email to my inbox. That was, whoa, super speed. But for them, it actually made a lot of sense because they wanted to say, hey, see, that's a feature that, if you work with us, we'll put on for you or set up for you, plus many other things that we know to do. We have other tricks in our sleeves. So for them, it made sense, and they actually got the deal. So I actually partnered with them, and that was one of the features that they told me about, which we applied. They told me a few other features. So tip for life, if you deal with marketing agencies, digital agencies, stuff like that. Sometimes it's worth the conversation. Tell me all the hacks and like plugins that you know of, and you list it down. It might not be relevant for you now, but maybe it might be relevant later once you kind of mature business. But anyways, this feature was one of them. So we're able to harvest all those emails, and then we did not apply right away an instant email. Like a few days after, we kind of set up an email. We say, thank you for visiting our website. We hope you found everything that you were looking for. Of course, there's a question. Reach out. It's much softer, nicer, kinder. And the ones that wanted to engage more, helped us to convert and generate more business out of it. So it was a nice plugin feature, a hack that we automated because we can say, hey, after X amount of hours or days, start the sequence in automation, which we did, and that was pretty cool. Multiplier for our momentum.
I love that. I think that's something that Seller Labs could definitely use. I've already sent it over to the Seller Labs team as a potential side of it, and I'm curious to see. I'm gonna have to go play with it with some of my smaller businesses and see if they, I don't know if any of those are getting enough traffic that they'd be able to help too much. But
you never know. Plus, if you're more on the retail side, if you have a brand, a supplement brand, whatever, you can, the approach is, hey, thank you for visiting the website. I hope you have found everything correctly. Here's X amount of percentage off if you'd like to make a purchase. 15% off, whatever it is. Yep. Why not? They came to the website. They might be interested, and they didn't convert. But maybe like that will trigger them to
almost like you're just handing out a coupon for somebody who actually came by the store.
Exactly what it is. You're handing. In other words, you're adding value, or you're offering value. And why not? 30-40% of the traffic that comes in, even if it's only 100 visitors a month, 30-40 of them, you'll have their information, and you want to be kind. You want to send an offer, you do it. And then some of it converts. Why not? You made some money, and hopefully a client for a long-term client, LTV, long-term, lifetime value of a client.
Love it. All right. Final question here. Moving into Bounties. So this is where we talk about your bottlenecks. So tell me a little bit about what do you feel like is the biggest bottleneck that Getita is currently facing?
So it's kind of a lot. There's a lot to unpack here on our side. We started the company around 2015, and on the sales and marketing and branding side, I think thank God we're doing okay. It's pretty matured and advanced over the years. It was a bit easier to achieve that than actually the ability to mature or transform the tech infrastructure. Because when we created the technical infrastructure years ago, we had a certain amount of volume in mind in terms of user base. It actually reminds me a little bit of the story of Amazon and the FBA program. So when they initially, the legend says within Amazon that when they originally created the FBA program, they presented to Jeff Bezos and said, hey, we want to create this program for, in the infrastructure and the fulfillment centers and all that stuff for like 20,000 sellers. And Jeff Bezos was like, that's cool, because if we get to the 20,000 sellers, it'll be pretty cool, pretty good achievement. But you should probably aim for the millions of sellers, because if this is really successful, I don't see why not, no reason for it to go to hundreds of thousands or millions of sellers, in the deeper future. So build to that scale, have that scale or infrastructure in mind. You don't have to build it next day, but over the years, it's just part of that program anyways, or part of that construction anyway. So as it was maturing and snowballing and growing, they're really able to create hundreds of facilities worldwide. Not forget about just the US. So it's an overwhelming success because they had the vision, or Jeff Bezos' vision, or bold vision to plan anything big. So he did that. I'm sure other programs. So for us, we thought, if we're gonna have kind of a couple hundreds of clients, will be amazing. So let's create for a couple thousand clients, right? The problem is right now we have tens of thousands of clients. That's where we kind of we were not bold enough on creating that infrastructure. So I compare it to like infrastructure of cities. You create the roads and the highways and the bridges. You think you'll have a population of 200,000 people, but today we're working up with a population of 2 million. So with these bridges and infrastructure, it's just congested. So it's bursting through the scene in terms of data, servers, processing, things of that nature. So and we constantly getting more and more business because the business, thank God, is growing. We have tens of thousands of users are happy, so it's boots on the ground, kind of advocating for us. So more interest comes in and more demand. And how do we deal with all this demand coming in real time that we have to serve and take care of them properly, and at the same time, kind of reframe our system to accommodate for them, but also the next influx is. I'll give an example. We're recording this in November, October last month. We had one of our best months ever, and this month alone, we the amount of new business that we got, a client that kind of registered, is equivalent to the amount of clients that we harvested in like our first 3 to 4 years. In other words, in 1 month, we generate more business that what it took us 3 to 4 years because it's compounding in a sense.
Yep.
So that gives a little bit of
So Yoni, here's my question for you as we get into this bounty / maybe there's some ideas I have here for you. As you consider the technical debt, because that's in some ways what we're describing here is technical debt that you've got to now undo or figure out some of those different pieces. In my journey, the hack that I used was bringing in someone externally who could act as like a fractional CTO. So I think you guys have a CTO who...
We actually have 2 CTOs. We have a CTO for Getira, but Getira is actually a part of a larger corporation called SIB, and the SIB also has a CTO. So we're putting a lot of
awesome
resources into this.
And my next question would be, do both of your CTOs have a background with building ginormous systems that are there? And if either one of them might not be, like that might be something that they've stumbled into and they're learning a lot really fast. What I did when I was building my agency is I hired a fractional COO. And I hired this fractional COO. He actually
or CTO, sorry.
COO in my situation.
Chief Operating Officer, yeah.
Yeah. So he came in and actually held the role of Chief Operating Officer for probably 6 months to a year before we could figure out some of our processes and kind of connect those dots. I had him for like 15 hours a week. I was really skeptical. I was like, how can you make impact in that way? And so you might have like even a chief architecture person or a director of architecture kind of fractional individual. And if you found somebody who literally has done what you're doing, I found that generally it's worth, like, even if the guy charges $500 an hour, if it's on similar systems to what you're describing, it's worth the first $500 to start to hear what he's describing. Be like, oh my gosh, he understands my problem intimately. Because no problem I have found in business hasn't been solved before by someone. And so,
I agree with that. So it's just to add to that a little bit, to add more color. So money is less of the issue. So definitely anybody that's capable, we're more than happy to reward. Is that so we're in this race, I guess, and for lack of a better terminology, to find this world-class talent that's able to kind of put all together on timely matter, because we're talking to agencies and other consultants, stuff like that, and it's much like construction. Someone say, hey, you can create this kind of architecture and we'll take you X amount of time, and somebody else will say, hey, yeah, the same structure will take you less time, more time. So it's a little bit confusing. Once again, put the money aside. It's like, who's telling the truth, who's capable, who's not capable, and how do you test that, and how do you deal with that? Yeah.
Here's another hack I've used when I ran into that situation when I was buying something that I didn't understand intimately, right? Because that's, in some ways, you're trying to build an infrastructure that you can't even imagine what it looks like, right? Like it's so new, foreign to where you're going. You're trying to build a house you've never built before.
Yeah, I want to touch that junction. So the junction that we're in, it's more like, do we create a brand new facility and then transfer everything? That alone has its own questions, complications, or whatever infrastructure they have here, how do I just keep it? I can't. It's such a legacy system, because I'll give an example. I think one of our CTOs actually used to work for Deutsche Bank. So the banking system has also this struggle. You have it's mass market platforms where they wish they could just move to brand new platforms. They can't. This legacy thing, and just a few people that know the code and know the structure, and there's so many dependencies. They're afraid to move the plumbing because they don't want their lights to shut down for even 1 second, because it's such a major financial institution. So they have their own issues on the banking side, but kind of same thing on a much, much smaller scale applies to us. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Here's the hack that I've applied to that situation. I was buying an app. I was going to hire somebody for like 20 grand to help me build an application. I was charging a client 100 grand. I was getting charged roughly 20 grand. And then I was going to do all the work with these overseas developers to like get stuff done. But I'd never had experience in that application before, or in builds, or in any of those different things. So I created a totally separate job post for an advisor who I would or a coach. Literally all I wanted was somebody who had experience on the strategy side, who could advise me what are the questions I should even be asking about building this app. And so I brought that second person on payroll, and I disconnected them from the solution. Like they were not allowed to bid on rebuilding everything else that was there. I did not. I was very clear. Like in my job post, your job is simply to advise us, and you've got to have experience, all that kind of stuff. Once I found a couple of people that were kind of in that role, I brought them into the conversations, and they acted as a guide or a translator. So like the dev agency would say, and I'd be like, dude, what did he just say? And he'd message me in there and be like, oh, they're totally trying to scam you. Or what they just said is actually an indication that they don't know what they're talking about in this regard. They're BSing. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. I had no idea all of this was going on. And so I still think the fractional CTO, and I probably wouldn't call it a fractional CTO because that might, disquiet the
fractional
CTOs you currently have. A fractional architect.
Yeah.
Bringing in a fractional architect, someone who's done what you're doing before, and his job is not to build anything. His job is to act as a spirit guide on your journey of reconstruction. And you just pay him, $1,000 a month for unlimited asynchronous communication and one call, right? Or whatever that comes out to. That's the hack I would use and sometimes, so I actually did this once where I had a bunch of people bid on the project and I picked my favorites. And then I took my fourth favorite and I said, I want you to come on and advise me and tell me what's wrong with all the other guys' proposals. And he was like, but I don't get to do the project. And I was like, nope. He was like, okay. And so like, he obviously knew what he was talking about to some degree or another because he was bidding on the project and he was more than happy to tear apart those other proposals. And so the hack was removing the incentive from the advice, right? If the person who's giving me the advice gains a lot, i.e. rebuild or upgrade or whatever, the advice comes tainted. So separating those two was my hack.
Yeah. How do you create this integrity level of architecture advice?
Well, natural incentive. How do you separate the natural incentives from the situation? My advisor, you could even tell him, like, I'll give you a bonus for how fast this gets done, for how effective and how cheap it is, right? Your bonus comes, your incentives need to align with mine, not with who, the guys that are going to build the different thing that's there. So.
Nice. By the way, I remember my URL for my contact info from Popl. So anybody wants to use it, I'm happy.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Shout it out.
Yeah. So it's getida.com/Yoni-info. So getida, getida.com/Yoni, which is YONI-info. That will pop up my Popl page.
That right there is another hack. Using shortened URLs. So that's what Yoni did.
Vanity. Yes. Vanity.
He's got a vanity URL that redirects to his Popl. That's easy for you to remember. So that's another fantastic.
Oh yeah,
hack.
the vanity URLs, I use it all the time. I've got a whole variety of them. If you want to book a meeting or go straight into my Zoom room, I have all these easy to remember URLs. So that also definitely is something that I apply.
I love it. Well, that's it for our episode today of Automation Hunter. Yoni, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us some apps, hacks, and a bounty we're actually able to fulfill today.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Well, appreciate it.
All right.